Hey, what is up, my tricksters? It's your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero back again. Today we'll be talking about Mystic Mine. But before we get into that, Past Me wants to let you know how you guys can support this channel. I'll remind you guys that there's a handful of ways that you can support me on this channel. And the first one is that you can check out the links in the description below. And you can check out your playmats where you will get 10% off if you use my link or my code. Code is next to the link in the description. And you can get a custom sleeve or mat with any artwork that you want on it. I have my logo because it's awesome. And the other way that you can support this channel is through my merch store. That's right, you guys can go get yourself a t-shirt and from my spring store and get you pretty much anything that you guys see here. Thanks, Past Me. Anyway, guys, make sure that you buy a t-shirt with Frank's face on it. He'll appreciate that.
I won!
Anyway, we're going to be talking about Mystic Mine and all the various things. We're going to talk about the pros, why the people that are pro Mystic Mine want it here. We're going to talk about the cons, the people who don't want it here. I'm probably in that camp, to be honest. And I'm going to give you my personal opinions, and then I think at the end I probably will tell you what I think will happen. Because I think only one or two things are going to happen with Mystic Mine at the end. But we'll save that for the last part. The first point is we're going to talk about the people who are pro Mystic Mine and the people who want to stay here. Obviously, there's the Mystic Mine players, you know, those Eugene types who are like, hey, play Mystic Mine, yeah. You know what I mean? Those guys, those troll players we all come across on Edo Pro who are just like, Mystic Mine? Field Barrier? That one spell, something Time Goddess. I can't remember the whole name. Now you'll never get to your back row, hey. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, those guys. That's the deck we really just want to go away, honestly. I don't think people really want Mystic Mine to go away as so much as we want the deck that centers around it to go away. I can't be the only one in that camp. Anyway, those players who who center an entire deck around this very powerful, which we can't ignore that Mystic Mine is a very powerful floodgate, because it doesn't just stop the monsters from using their abilities; it also stops the monsters from attacking. That's the other challenge with this particular spell. And that's why I think it also sets it unique from other floodgates. But a lot of the people who are for Mystic Mine, you know, they'll say, oh, well, just use your back row hate, you know, like you would for anything else. Like, even I'm doing it, you know. Like, if you look at the deck that I showcased yesterday, even I'm main decking cards to out Mystic Mine because I'm paranoid, and I'm deciding more to do so. Cosmic Cyclone, you know, you can also count survivals in here. This is what I haven't really done too much work with it, but the idea is, like, yeah, you could also use this card to do it. There's tons of these cards that get, like, Duster, Pankratops, there's tons of cards to out Mystic Mine, but situation prevailing. So even I play cards to out Mystic Mine, so out of paranoia, and I think that, you know, that's part of the frustration there for a lot of players. But continuing, the people who want to stay here is probably the Sky Striker players, the people who play like only one or two monsters in their main deck. Yes, of course they want Sky Striker. They want the spell, the Mystic Mine, because it's a powerful field spell. It also, you know, because they only play one monster, and basically now the opponent has to, on top of getting rid of the Sky Strikers, which already have like kind of a built-in recursion, they also have like all these very powerful spells. So if you're not main decking that back row hate, it could come back and bite you. Now, so that's kind of the pro, the people who want it to stay here. And then, of course, there's always those players who, anytime somebody calls for the banning of a card, they're just going to go ahead and be transparent. There's always going to be a contingent of players who, doesn't matter what that card is, they'll just say, you're bad at the game, get good, and that's the end of the conversation for them. You know what I mean? And because it's the only thing that they have at the end of the day is, you're just bad at Yu-Gi-Oh, bro. And you just kind of have to laugh at those players, because it's not that you're bad, it's that you're pointing out an actual problem, and then they don't want to hear that. So, But I digress. Let's go ahead and talk about the people who want to get banned and want the card banned, limited, or something, or whatever. Because I'm in that camp, right? And I'll give my 2 cents at the tail end of that. So a lot of these players want this card to be banned because, like, obviously they don't feel like they should have to main deck back row hate to play the game to a degree. But also, like, and those players are, like, on that end are... I can relate to that a little bit, like, because it's the game in the manga and in the anime was called Duel Monsters. The idea is you were supposed to fight each other with monsters, but unfortunately, there's a contingent of players in this game who don't want to play that way. It is what it is, and you know Konami didn't build this game to favor that kind of playstyle, so it is what it is. There's also the control player versus the combo player aspect. I think there's bullshit in both camps, but you guys got to remember, I'm like a Yu-Gi boomer. You know what I mean? I'm in my 30s playing Yu-Gi-Oh, so I remember when T-set pass was a decent move. So I may be a little biased on that front when you have that debate, but anyway. The other thing is about this is that the players who want this ban also have to have acknowledged, like I may have mentioned earlier, that Mystic Mind is very different as opposed to most Floodgate cards. Most Floodgate cards don't just, you know, because what Mystic Mind mostly gets compared to is goes in match, there can be only one, skill drain, a rivalry, those kinds of floodgates. The difference between those kinds of floodgates and Mystic Mind is those kind of floodgates really just limit the kind of monsters for the most part. Skill drain limits the special summons, but there's still the ability, or not the special summons, the effects, but it doesn't stop you from special summoning. It doesn't stop you from, you know, attacking with said monsters. You know, like if you have big monsters that, a lot of people forget this, but when skill drain was first seeing a lot of its play, it was played in decks that had high attack monsters, and because the game was kind of slower than it is now, so a lot of players were like, oh, I'll flip skill drain and then now all my monsters get to attack, even if like there's a Malefic on the field, or they would play it with monsters that would have a drawback, like for example like Goblin Attack Force, Chainsaw Insect, these kind of monsters that had a drawback for attacking, but they had high stats and ease of summon. So that was skill drain's kind of role in the game, because, you know, monster effects are a pain in the ass. But most of the time, skill drain was used as a way to kind of turn Yu-Gi-Oh back to its roots, almost, if you will. So making the comparison of skill drain and Mystic Mind actually isn't really a fair comparison, nor either is it with the other floodgates that are mentioned. In fact, the closest you'll get, I think, of a comparison card is Baguska, the Tire Tapir, because they kind of serve the same purpose. They stop attacks and they stop monster effects. Each of these, both the spell and the Tapir here have their limitations, and I actually would argue that the Tire Tapir is actually the fairer of the two cards, because you can kaiju this card, you can, you know, or if you play Link monsters, you just kind of laugh because your opponent's like, you're like, I'm playing a Link deck, I don't care. So you make some, you know, some decent Link 2 monster or whatever, and, you know, like, I've seen people playing Nightmare Cerberus pop this thing and continue their play, so, yeah. It's literally not a... Baguska's the fairer of the two cards, just because, and plus also, like, you know, Regeki, Dark Hole, Lightning Storm. Well, no, maybe not Lightning Storm because it's in defense mode, but you guys get what I'm getting at. There's plenty of cards that, like, there are a lot more cards that can get rid of Baguska than there are than I can get rid of Mystic Mind, I feel like, in the meta game is what I'm getting at. So, I feel like these two cards are more comparable, but, like, you know, than what most players who are comparing, like, who are defending Mystic Mind's existence are comparing it to. And I get it. All of us hate Floodgates. If you play any kind of deck that actually uses monsters, for the most part, you probably don't like Floodgates. They get in the way, they slow the game down to a pointless level, you know, and you typically, those floodgates are used usually in ways where only one person is slowed down, and that's kind of the problem with floodgates, I think, is that they don't slow down both players, you know? They typically only slow one player down, so, you know, that's probably the issue there. But yeah, and a lot of players like John Moore, House of Champs, have been calling for Mystic Mine to be banned for a long time. And the truth is, fun fact, a lot of players have been calling for Mystic Mine's banning pretty much since its existence. I've been doing the same thing with Ash Blossom. I said what I said. Yes, I'm playing it. You can call me a hypocrite if you want to. I don't care. I play it because I have to, not because I want to. Anyway, point being, I guess we should go ahead and start to wrap this up. The point that I want to get at here is, like, what are my 2 cents on it? I don't know if Mystic Mine is worthy of a ban, per se, because this could be considered biased, so you can take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But I feel like Mystic Mine is better as a limited card. It could be limited to 1, and it will serve its purpose still as a slowdown card. Like, for example, like the Skytracker player, if they draw it or search it, they can play it. But here's the thing, once it's gone, it's gone. There's no, there's no second Mystic Mine to back it up. So that's where I think Mystic Mine needs to be. It needs to be either at 1 or at 0. Believe it or not, like, how like John Moore and House of Champs likes to say, like, X card needs to be either at 3 or at 0. The Mystic Mine is a completely different ballpark from that. Mystic Mine is an at 1 or at 0 type of card. And the reason I say this is because if you limit Mystic Mine, the players who usually make their entire deck center around it, like the Mystic Mine deck, well, guess what? Those guys go away because they only get 1 Mystic Mine, and typically the odds are you might actually be able to stop the 1 Mystic Mine. So then the only thing they can do, I think, is play Pseudo Space, but Pseudo Space only works for like a turn. So that doesn't really work. Or they're gonna have to play more cards that recur field spells back. That means putting more bricks into the deck that already isn't all that great. In conclusion, I think that Mystic Mine would be best at 1, but if it got banned, my feelings wouldn't be hurt, to be brutally honest. Now, that being said, it's my opinion. Where do I think Konami's gonna take this? Honestly, I think that Konami will either ban it or leave it alone. I think Konami's gonna leave it alone or ban it, because in the OCG, I believe they banned it, but here in the TCG, we still have it at 3, so I think Konami will either ignore that. It's like very much like Dragoon in that aspect. Like, I feel like Dragoon's a problematic monster that shouldn't be allowed. But Konami TCG doesn't agree with me, so they just took away Verte, which was a good thing. Now it's only going to be mostly it's going to be in the deck it belongs in, but for the most part. But yeah. That being said, I think that Konami TCG likes to let the cards go for a little longer than they should, and on some cards, and also has once they get banned, also doesn't let them come back as soon as they should. But that one might be just Konami. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Is it time for Mystic Mine to go? Let me know what you guys think below in the comments. I'm very curious to see what you guys think. If you're new to the Ben 10,000 YGO channel, please consider subscribing. I would love to welcome you a part of my my Tricksters gang. And guys, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.